Let's move on to the Saints. You mentioned Chris Olave. Chris Olave picking up an injury here, Tyler, and this is
Especially on
another
Friday.
player, right, in our lineups. Like,
Yeah.
we're counting on him to be there in a division game against Atlanta, and now there's a possibility that Chris Olave is out. I don't think we have confirmation yet, one way or the other, that Chris Olave is going to be missing this game or in danger of missing this game. But he did. Well, did he leave practice today? Was he out of practice? Talk to me a little bit about Olave's injury and your thoughts on it.
I just saw that it was just he popped up on the injury report. He's considered day to day
Okay.
with an injury in practice today. So, um, yeah, I don't know if he's going to play or not. If he does play, like, I mean, I'd be playing him. Um, but it's like one of the when these guys are added to the injury report and later in the week, like this is never a good sign. I mean, we saw with AJ Brown, he was added to the injury report, and now it's I think he's going to play this week, but missed 2 weeks. Like these are always really frustrating. But at least it's a 1 o'clock game with Chris Olave, so you'll
Good point.
know, 11:30. We don't gotta wait. You'll know if he's going to play or not. So, but this is always like with if Chris Olave does miss, I mean, Rashid Shaheed obviously gets a little bit of a boost. But for me personally, like, and I said this when Rashid Shaheed was having his stuff, like I just don't trust Rashid Shaheed like going forward as like this guy who's going to be a weekly starter for you. He's somebody who maybe, during bye weeks can become like a fill-in kind of guy. But like I just feel like we saw it last week with Derek Carr. Like we know who Derek Carr is. Like Derek Carr is not a guy who's going to score in every single possession. He's a guy who throughout his entire career has been very inconsistent week to week. He's a very average quarterback. And I like the offense coordinator, what's his name
Kubiak.
again? Kubiak, yes, Clint Kubiak. Can do some things, but at the end of the day, like the players got to go out there and execute. And I just don't think Derek Carr is consistent enough to do that on a regular basis. So, like, and this is also a tough matchup. Well, I know Rashee Rice had a pretty good game, but
Yeah.
like, this is a tough matchup. Atlanta's defenses look pretty legit to start the season. So we'll see. We'll have to see what happens with Chris Olave, but it's never a good thing.
Never a good thing, man. And obviously, an injury this close to Sunday, it doesn't project well for him playing. Now, I think the question is like, obviously, Shaheed is the one guy who I like Shaheed, I think, a little bit more than you do. And I think he's on the wide receiver 3 radar if Chris Olave does miss time. But it's who are the other pieces and how does this thing work out for the Saints? And, Alvin Kamara came into this week banged up a little bit. And that's one of the pieces that I think would see an increase in receptions if he's, obviously I think the expectations he's going to be out there. But he would see an increase in workload. Taysom Hill has also missed a little bit of time here with the punctured lung. This is another player now that probably has an increased role in the offense, as with some of the other tight ends, your Foster Moreau, your Juwan Johnson, as I don't really see like a Cedric Wilson, an A.T. Perry. I don't see none of these guys stepping up. So a player that may be out there on waivers right now that you might want to pick up is Taysom Hill. He had some carries to start the year. Obviously gets involved in the receiving game. I know week 1 he had a red zone look that just missed. So, like, I think Taysom Hill is a player that you probably could get, especially with tight end being so dire right now, and probably list him as like a top 12 option for this week. I don't love it, and I think there's a lot of inconsistency that comes with Taysom Hill. But with not a whole lot of offensive weapons on this team, I think Taysom Hill may even be worth the stab this week.
Yeah. And that's all, once again, if Chris Olave's out, we'll have to see.
I mean, Chris Olave ain't been that good anyway. I'm like, what is he? Has he even been a top 30 receiver? Like, and
I think I don't know if he had a touchdown last week. He had last week, I want to say he had a pretty solid week, or maybe it was the week before. But he's like what you see is I was going through earlier and I was looking at like the target shares and everything, and his target shares it's back up to where it needs to be, and like Rashid Shaheed has fallen down quite a bit. So it has been great, but I do like 28%, 24%. And Shaheed's went from 25, 20, 21%. So it's like kind of dropping. But yeah, like I know it has been great, but I would definitely be playing a lot.
It's kind of, I mean, that's damn near like a 1A, 1B type thing, more so of a split. But like, even still, I think that, we haven't really seen the Saints offense have to have like volume either, So you talk about, what was it, 25%-ish type split. That's like 6 targets a week right now in this offense because A, they were blowing teams out initially, and then B, Philly kind of handled business last week. So I think this thing for the Saints still has to get figured out. Unfortunately for us as fantasy managers, and then, Chris Olave getting hurt just throws another wrench in that shit. We'll figure this thing out as we go. But for now, I think Olave, and if he plays, you're starting him, right? Like, no
Yeah, I
questions
would
asked.
play him. Yeah.